Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock, and this past weekend, both the UFC and Bellator presented cards with Knockout of the Year candidates. Yoel Romero was the focus going in and coming out of his fight with Machida, and Bellator made a surprise announcement of another former UFC star coming over to the organization. Yoel Romero scored his 6th consecutive win in the UFC, taking Machida to the mat in the 3rd round of their main event on Saturday and administering a series of elbows to get the knockout victory and a performance of the night bonus. The finish came after a tentative opening round, but Romero certainly won the 2nd round and delivers Machida his 2nd consecutive loss in 2 months within the UFC's middleweight division. Lorenz Larkin made it 2 in a row since cutting down to the welterweight division as he took on Santiago Ponzinibbio on Saturday night. Larkin was on point throughout the duration of the fight with a steady delivery of leg kicks and landing with his left at a high volume with constant head movement to surprise Ponzinibbio and dropped him with a left hook, and as Ponzinibbio stood up, he was dazed and finished standing at the 307 mark of round 2. Thiago Santos made the UFC debut of Steve Bosse a memorable one, just not a favorable one. Santos sized up Bosse and connected with a fight-ending left head kick, putting Bosse out, and Santos ending the fight in 29 seconds. Santos not only received praise for a Knockout of the Year candidate, but also netted an extra $50,000 for the performance bonus as he improves to 11-3. And Bellator 139 went down on Friday night from Mulvane, Kansas. The show featured a very dull main event, another Knockout of the Year candidate from Hisaki Kato, and the announcement that Josh Koscheck is joining the organization with his UFC deal coming to an end earlier this year. Koscheck is 37 years of age and has lost his last 5 fights dating back to 2012 and has already publicly stated that he would like to have a rematch with Paul Daley. The two fought in 2010 at UFC 113 with Koscheck controlling Daley with his wrestling and led to Daley sucker punching Koscheck after the fight and being thrown out of the UFC for his actions. And we will be back on Saturday night, July the 11th, with a 1-hour preview show at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, getting you set for the biggest UFC card of the year with 2 title fights. And then immediately after the main event, we will be back with a live post show on UFC 189 night. Here with Robin Black and John Ramdeen, so much stuff to discuss coming out of the weekend. We'll start in UFC land, where Yoel Romero was the talk of the main event, both in the fight and coming out of it, gets his 6th consecutive victory inside of the UFC. Everyone's talking about Jacare as his next opponent. I think that makes too much sense. I think you put that on the same card as Weidman Rockhold if everything works out. And then if someone injures their ribs, you have an instant replacement. Yep. What did you think of Yoel Romero's performance?
Yeah, what can you say? I mean, you stop Lyoto Machida. Lyoto Machida has so much experience. He's been in there with the top fighters on the planet, and I actually thought that Machida was doing very well in that fight. I know the commentators said that they felt Romero won round 2 because of the left hands, but I still felt that it was Machida's movement and that he scored enough in round 2, and I thought that Romero was getting tired, but it really didn't matter. His confidence was through the roof. He was just plodding forward, and it just seemed like it was a matter of time before he landed on Lyoto Machida. Was not afraid of him at all.
I got the sense that Machida was just, let this guy come after me for 3 rounds. He's going to tire. Yeah. It seemed like that was very much the strategy of Machida.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so too. And I thought Romero performed amazingly. I mean, he learned a lot watching Weidman's fight because people weren't able to sort out that movement. Weidman had it sorted, and Romero had that same patient pressure, but don't hurry and don't rush in. And was able to just kind of control the range properly until he got to his bread and butter. Just a beautiful outside trip to the knee tap, took him down, and there's so much power in that side of his body that if he's free to be able to explode in a little bit, you saw what happened. And that in-cage performance was amazing.
How important was it that Romero unleashed the fury as soon as the fight hit the ground, opposed to letting Machida try to get his guard going?
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. A lot of guys, if you settle in and you sort of agree to play jiu-jitsu, it's a different game all of a sudden. He wraps something up, gets some kind of control. But if in that moment where it is not just yet established what's happening, you start hurting a guy, yeah, very good point. That was a key to that. Not just the explosive power, but the timing with which he approached it.
In terms of, I don't want to get into a big discussion on his post-fight interview, but do you guys, when a guy is given a microphone after a fight like that and he decides to go in a direction and bring politics into it, do you guys have an issue? And you might disagree with his opinions. Is that like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But is that a direction a fighter, if he chooses to, then he can go that way?
It's his beliefs. clearly he's saying something, and there's going to be some people that are going to jump on the bandwagon. There's some people out there are going to say, you know what, I liked this fighter before. There's no way I'm supporting him moving forward. But that's up to the individual.
Because he immediately backtracked.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
and that was clearly not. I don't think
backtracking was worse, to be honest.
Yes,
if you've got a belief, stand behind it. I mean, but hey, listen, you just went in and you had one of the toughest assignments in sport. 25 minutes of one of the toughest sporting jobs there is. We've all watched you perform brilliantly. You do now have the moment. You have that moment to say whatever it is you choose. And you have an audience. We're your audience. You can say anything you want. But audiences have a right too, and our right as an audience is to express our opinion now. And my opinion is, fuck you, Yoel Romero, you sanctimonious prick. That's my opinion.
Yep. I think many people had a very similar opinion to Yoel Romero's words, but there was also a lot. This weekend had, I would argue, 2 Knockout of the Year contenders.
Joe Schilling.
Hisaki Kato on Friday night, unreal against Joe Schilling, and then just 24 hours later, Thiago Santos and Steve Bosse.
Oh.
I mean, if you guys are analyzing here, a Knockout of the Year contender, I mean, we've seen some great ones this year. Paul Felder comes to mind with Danny Castillo, but those two are absolutely going to be discussed at the end of the year.
Sure, also Joe Schilling and Melvin Manhoff.
That's true,
well.
too.
So Joe Schilling,
maybe the only guy who can be on the front and receiving end.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. You know, Steve Bosse said it on social media. This is what happens. You step inside of the cage. You're ready to knock guys out. Just be ready to get yourself knocked out too. And Joe Schilling, we talked about it. He landed the punch that dropped Melvin Manhoff, and then Kato knocking him out. And the question I have to ask is, for a lot of these kickboxers, is it just the fact that they're just not in the MMA mode right now? Like, why are we seeing guys that are elite stand-up strikers in one discipline, they lose via knockout in a different discipline?
You know, the very, very best javelin thrower in the world will be a better javelin thrower than every single of the top 10 decathletes in the world. But he can't do those other 9 things. And when he goes to do the decathlon, he's not going to win it. And there's an element of that at play, for sure. But if you told me on Friday that Joe Schilling would be involved in the knockout of the year, I would totally have bought that. I would 100% have bought that.
Quickly, it appears Paul Daley has his next year booked. He's got a fight next July. He's been announced for the September 19th card. Josh Koscheck wants to fight him as well. I imagine that won't be a kickboxing fight, you would think. But do you like Josh Koscheck in Bellator, and is that the fight you go to?
I don't know. You can build to that fight. Yes, it makes sense. But I mean, Josh Koscheck, you need the guy to win. So I think that you just he's the brand. You got to put him in there against a guy that is going to be competitive, but a guy that he's going to beat. And Paul Daley, he's been doing this for a long time. He's one of these free agents who's managed to make money all over the globe.
All right. Josh Koscheck back in Bellator at the age of 37. For Robin Black, John Ramdeen, I'm John Pollock. More Fight News Now Extras coming your way.